For the rest of Chapter 6, we're going to specifically look at quadrilaterals. And the first type of quadrilateral that we're going to deal with is called a parallelogram. So we're going to look at applying properties of sides and angles of polygons. And then we'll look at properties of the diagonals of parallelograms as well. So some of the properties that we've got, a parallelogram we're saying is a quadrilateral with both pairs of opposite sides being parallel. So I'm going to create what we call a parallelogram tree, or excuse me, a quadrilateral tree, to kind of give us a picture as to where do all these quadrilaterals fit. I have the entire thing already drawn out. So we're just stating that a quadrilateral has four sides. And underneath of a quadrilateral, one of them that we're going to talk about is called a parallelogram. So we're saying a parallelogram has four sides, but it has more properties to it. And one of the properties that we come up with is we have both pairs of opposite sides being parallel. We also have opposite sides being congruent. Another one is opposite angles are congruent. Another property is that we have consecutive angles being supplementary. So these are like angles J and M. They would add up to 180, or M and L. They just have to be right next to each other. And then the last one on this slide just says if you have one right angle, then there are four right angles. This actually is one of the properties more of a rectangle, and we'll talk about later on, but it's in there. If one of them's right, then they're all right angles. So let's do some examples that deal with this. In part A, it wants us to find the value of DC. Well, DC is a side length that is across from AB. One of the properties is opposite sides being parallel and congruent. So if I know AB is 2.5 feet, then DC should also be 2.5 feet. Next, angle B. We know opposite angles are congruent, and we also know consecutive angles add up to 180. They tell us angle A is 55. So A and B, those are consecutive. So I know that they add up to 180. So I'm going to take 180 minus 55, which will get us 125 degrees. And then for angle C, well, I can use angle B, or I can know that opposite angles are congruent, which in this case, A is congruent to C. And since A is congruent to C, we know that angle C would be 55 degrees.